Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Clouser, and welcome back to the Journey of My Mother's Son podcast. Yeah, I'm joined with Nico Lagan, and really excited to have this conversation because, as my listeners know, I love when I get an opportunity to connect with other full-time RVers, and that's part of Nico's story, just a small part of it. He's also an entrepreneur, coach, and a fellow podcaster. So it's always great to have fellow podcasters and fellow RVers on the show. So I kind of get the best of both worlds here. So, Nico, thanks a lot for taking the time to join me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So before we get started, though, just go ahead and introduce yourself in your own words. Who is Nico today?
Nico is a entrepreneur before all. My background is in sales. I've been a sales engineer for the past 12 years. Over the past, I'd say we've been on the road now for since September, since the end of September. So both my girlfriend and I quit our 9 to 5 and we left Canada and we've been exploring the US for the better part of 2 months. I think it's our 7 states that we're doing now. We're in Houston, Texas. We're just about to leave for Austin, where we're going to spend probably Christmas until the 4th. We're going to be there for a month. But yeah, I'm a coach. I coach men. I'm a martial art coach. I also have a few businesses. I have an apparel brand. I have a podcast. I started a production house for some projects that you'll find on television soon. So it's amazing what you can do when you don't have a 9 to 5
Yeah.
hugging most of your time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. How about it? So yeah, we're going to get into all that. But before we do, let's talk a little bit about the RV life. You mentioned that you're originally from Canada, and
Yep.
those listening can pick up a little bit of a French accent there. Um, so tell me, you talked about giving up the 9 to 5. Before we started recording, we just talked about how awesome it is to be able to travel and move about and be able to really be an entrepreneur without having to set roots into one place. But what was the real inspiration for you wanting to get up and go and head south, other than the fact that you can ride your motorcycle year round when you're down there in Houston as opposed to Canada?
There's two main reasons. I don't know how much you want to go into it. It really depends on you. But first off, is my girlfriend and I last year, we over the past 2.5 years, I lived in a log house in the middle of the woods. I kind of went and concentrated on my own projects. And last year we got I think out of the month of January and February, we got 2 weeks of minus 40 Fahrenheit. So my girlfriend and I are like, hell no. No, 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 no. This is done. Never again. We are never spending winter here. And both my girlfriend and I wanted to leave Canada. We're not very happy with the direction that the country's taking. We don't like where our prime minister is heading. And I worked very hard over the past few years to allow us to do this. And we're not going back. Like, we're literally going. The main reason I would say that we're on the road right now is to try to figure out a place where we belong. So as we're traveling through the US, if we find a city that we really like, that we could see ourselves live there, we'll buy a house there. If not, we'll continue south. We'll go down to South America somewhere. But for now, we really like Nashville, so it's possible that we buy something in either Nashville or Knoxville. We really like Tennessee as a whole. It's my favorite state up to now, is Tennessee by far. So yeah, we just have the freedom to go where we want right now, and that's the goal. It's really just to see where we fit in.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, and you're right. Tennessee is an absolutely beautiful state. We've hit parts of it. When we head to Texas here in a little bit, we'll actually spend some time in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and
Yeah.
a little bit in Chattanooga on our way down. But it is really a beautiful state. So that's pretty cool that it's somewhat of a fact finding mission for you, but
Yep.
without any type of timetable either. That whenever it happens, and I guess if it doesn't happen, you're okay with that as well. Because you can do things on the road that no one would have ever thought of even as recently as probably 2-3 years ago. So talk a little bit about how you can be an entrepreneur and run a business, going from state to state and campground to campground and parking lot to parking lot.
Well, you want to speak about the RV life more? How that do I deal with that, or how did I make it happen to get to the point that I am right now?
Both really. I mean, how did you make it happen to get to the point where you are, and then how is what adjustments did you have to make to really continue being an entrepreneur while being on the road?
So the story probably starts about 10 years ago, where you know I I'm the type, I can go even further, but I quit school. I was 15 years old. By the time I was 20, I didn't have a high school diploma. I had nothing. Literally, as I was literally a guy selling drugs and imagining that he'd be a gangster. Those were my teenage years. I stopped everything. I stopped drugs. I stopped drinking alcohol. I went back to school. Within the span of 2 years, I had a college degree and I had a high school equivalency. Within 7 years of that, I literally started working in a call center to do technical support for internet services for residential internet. Within 7 years, I was a sales engineer, which basically I went around Canada with some of the biggest account that we had in telecommunications. So I worked for a company similar to your Verizon here, except the Canadian equivalent. I did that for 12 years. I built all the jobs that I've ever done. I have balls. I'm somebody that's extremely driven. I will do what needs to be done in order to get what I want. And I've always done jobs that would help develop my skills. So sales is a great. Why do you? I record so much content right now, and all the skills that I developed came from being in front of customers day in day out. The same way as I speak. So I'm a big fan of psychology. And 3 years ago, when COVID happened, all the meeting I would normally do face to face. I could have 3-4 meetings a day. So I would go customer side to customer side to customer side. And in Canada, we had some really brutal lockdowns. So they literally prevented everybody from seeing anybody. So all of the calls were taken from Zoom and Teams. So I had an investment house in the middle of nowhere, literally 25 minutes away from the closest grocery store, top of a mountain, log house, as you imagine Canadian people live. And I got rid of my place in Montreal, lived outside in the middle of nowhere for 2.5 years. The first year and a half, I was alone. I moved there with my dog, and all I did is work. I would work my 40 hours a week where I would talk to customers, same thing, except I wouldn't do it in person. And I started I started asking myself questions. I isolated myself because I'm somebody that's very outspoken, that's very outgoing. I'm used to be around people. So when COVID happens, I used to teach martial art. I would coach people. Like I fought in a ring prior to 7 or 8 years ago. I was still fighting, but I found because I lost all of my passions, I couldn't go to the gym anymore. I couldn't teach martial art anymore. I couldn't even see customers anymore. I moved to that house in the middle of nowhere, built myself a gym, and I asked myself, what else can I do? I can't control what's going on right now. I can't control the restrictions, but what can I do? So I listed my skills and I figured that I'll start a podcast. So I've recorded about 150 podcasts since then. Um, I also thought that I have a different shape. Like I've been working out for more than 20 years. I have a super tiny waist, but I have big shoulders. So I decided I'd start an apparel company that would specialize in people more my size, like for people that work out a lot. So yeah, over the past 2.5 years, I've worked on my podcast. I worked on developing an apparel brand, which we just released a couple of weeks ago. I started a coaching program which I've coached quite a few individuals over the past year. I also decided to do a full renovation on my house. So in the last 8 months, I was doing a reno. I was starting up the apparel company. I was still working my 9 to 5. I was coaching people. On top of that, I was training. So I normally work on average, even to this day, I probably work 14 hours a day. I'm kind of a workaholic. But yeah, now just started. We left about 2 months ago, and we've been on the road ever since last, like the end of September. This only has given me more time to work on my projects. The amount of ideas that has been developed since I don't have to think about work. I'm someone that gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm up until 8, 9 at night, and then I go to bed. But since we've been on the road, I developed a new project that it's a show that's going to end up on television. I'm working very hard right now in having that happen. I've been doing a new series of podcasts where I am recording with people live, so I go really in the environment of the people. All my stuff is portable. I have 3 cameras set up, all the lights, all the microphones that you need, and I've started the apparel. Like I said, just got released. I turned the second bedroom in my RV into an office, so I have all of my gear everywhere, all over the place, and yeah, it's just allowed. And I started writing a book about a month and a half ago. I'm about 20,000 words in. So I'm about a third of the book has been written. I got a app that I'm working on right now that's going to fit with my coaching that I'm developing. There's a lot of projects that are on the go that are only possible because I freed myself from my 9 to 5. So I I did a reno on my house before I left. It took me about 6 months. I refinanced my house, took all the money out, put that in a bank account, and I'm just living off that money and investing it in my businesses. I'm giving myself 6 months to make everything work the way it should be.
Yeah, yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. So let's talk a little bit about your coaching specifically.
Yep.
You didn't really have a father figure as you were growing up, and
Yep.
you know, the things that you focus on in your coaching is really helping men and make them focus on what really matters so that they can achieve their goals. So what was it that made you want to get into that type of coaching? And are a lot of the guys that you're coaching, were they without a father figure as well, or is it kind of a mixed bag?
Well, so this is a very good question because I've been changing the type of people that I want to help over the past year or so. The more I do it, the more I get more and more specific into the people I want to help. If you find my profiles online, you'll notice that I'm very driven on old school men, like the old mentality of a man is a provider. Man is supposed to know how to fight to defend his family. There's certain roles. I don't buy in the no gender role and all that crap. I believe that a man is supposed to do something, his wife is supposed to do something else, and together they complement each other. And there's a lot of misconception that's been put in onto strong men. I'm tired of strong men like myself being called toxic because we're masculine, because we're not ashamed of being men. We're not ashamed to admit that I will do what is necessary to defend my family. I will do what's necessary to provide for my girlfriend and my family. This is my role as a man, and I'm not ashamed of it. On the contrary, I embrace it. So the guys that I work with I'm retargeting it because there's a lot of guys that, as a provider, most men are not very good with their money. Like they're very bad at they live paycheck to paycheck. They don't really know how to invest their money. This is not the type of person I want to help. I want to help the people that has already been working on themselves. That's already there's something called, I don't know if you ever read the book from Paulo Coelho that's called The Alchemist, but he has a principle in his book that calls about personal legends. So basically what it means, he talks about your destiny. He says that it's a fiction movie, but he uses it to pass his life experience and his methodology of thinking within that fiction. But he explains how We're all meant to do something. And unless you're doing that, you'll never be happy. You'll always feel like you're missing something. And my coaching, my I just upgraded my coaching, and that's what it's meant on. So it's really, I want to help men that are already on top of their finances, that their family is already taken care of, they're already successful in what they're doing, but they want to take it to the next step. They've always known that there's something else that they can do, and they're not buying the regular life anymore. The life that you're supposed to graduate university or college and then find a job, and then once you find a job you find a wife, then once you find a wife you buy a house that's a nice blue house with white picket fence, and you buy one, you get a dog, and then you have 2.2 kids, and then you grow old doing the same 9 to 5 for the rest of your life. Those are the guys I want to help. I want to help the guys that are established, that know what they want, but they need direction as to how to get from where they are right now to do. Look at what I did. I literally I quit a six digit job that I was very comfortable in, that I would have continued making money for as long as I wanted to, in order to pursue my dream of traveling and running my businesses. I was to a point that I knew that if I wanted to grow my business to a point where they make millions, I need to take 100% of my time to do so.
Right.
So I want to show people, I want to take the men that have ideas like I did, and show them how to do it the way I did it. Not necessarily, the dream's not going to be the same. The legend, as we say, is not the same, but the way of doing it, I can show them how to do it. And this is what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. What, what type of challenges have you faced running a business on the road? Because I know, for me, with doing podcasts and stuff, obviously, good internet is something that, we're always seeking. And, looking ahead at my schedule, making sure I'm in a spot where I can do a podcast over Zoom and make sure I have good internet and that sort of stuff. So what are some of the challenges that you've faced, being a businessman on the road like that?
Truthfully, because I started everything remotely, it hasn't made that much of a difference. I lived in the middle of nowhere, so I had a Starlink connection because that's the only thing that would get me anything more than 5 megs download. And one before we left, we bought another one. So we have one on the top of the RV right now. So that's how we get internet pretty much anywhere we go. Sometimes it's patchy, sometimes it's not, but most of the time it's great. I think I was doing 200 meg download this morning. So
Oh,
I'm so used to being on the road, to being remote from the main urban centers, then to me, to be in an RV changes really nothing.
yeah.
It has not changed anything. On the contrary, like I said, the fact that I quit my job allows me to dedicate more time to it. It's so even better. Like it's better than it was. It's better than an RV. I get to visit place. I get to meet a boatload of new people. I get to record a bunch of podcasts in person. It's absolutely amazing. Best thing I've ever done was to leave Canada in an RV.
Yeah. So you live in, literally in the middle of nowhere on top of that mountain really helped you kind of convert to that RV lifestyle for sure. And that's, one of the things. I mean, I too record quite a few podcasts in person because, part of the story of this podcast is telling people's stories and telling the stories of the people that we meet. So I love the opportunity to, to be able to do this where, you're in Houston and I'm in Pennsylvania, and we can get together and talk and do a podcast. But man, there's nothing better than sitting down at a picnic table across from somebody and recording a podcast and really connecting. And I know for me, that's been the best thing about our travels is just meeting, new people. And I'm really an introvert at heart. But I've found that traveling has really gotten me out of my shell, and I'm, I'll approach people that I never would have approached before. And I think, what's been awesome for us is really understanding that there are a lot of good people in this world. You just need to really go out and look for them. And if you're looking for good people, you're going to find it. So, you know, how has that been for you? You know, understanding again, going from this tight lockdown situation to be able to get out there and meet new people and understand that we all have a lot more in common than what we don't.
You know, I'm an extrovert by nature. I'm used to doing presentation in front of clients. I'm used to running martial art class where there's 50 people in the class. So I'm used to be in front of people. And one of the reasons I left and go and went to that cottage in the middle of nowhere was to practice my being alone. I was so used to always being with people that I didn't spend a lot of time alone. It's something that actually scared me. Like it did scare me. And the first year and a half I spent it alone. It was not easy as an extrovert. That was hard. That was very hard. But now it's funny that I value my time alone as much as I value my time with others. So, you know, even if we're on the road and we're traveling, we're meeting great people. If I don't feel like going out, except going to the gym, I come back and I continue working. I don't need to interact with people if I don't want to, except my girlfriend, obviously, because that's kind of hard to, in this size of an RV, it's kind of hard to avoid her. But the other people, it's been great to be to. I don't know where Canadians get the the idea, or I don't know where people get the idea that Canadians are polite. I find Americans way more polite than Canadians as a whole. Like as the further south we go, the more polite people. I really started to notice how polite people were in Richmond. One of my mentors from Richmond, Virginia, spent about a month, 5 weeks over there, and everybody says sir, everybody says ma'am, and the more Nashville, Tennessee was the same thing. Texas is even worse. Like everybody calls you sir, ma'am. It doesn't matter what age you are, but all I meet is very, very, very polite people. Very polite, very nice, very helpful. Like it's been truthfully amazing, but I do wonder if it's because we avoided all the big cities that are more north. Like we really started staying in places in Virginia and south.
Right. Right. Huh.
But the people have been awesome. Like really, I don't know why people think that Canadians are that polite because I find that the people I've met in America are way more polite than Canadians.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you'd like to bring up to the listeners?
I never fucking stop. Oh, sorry for my language. I never stop talking. I'm somebody that's always blah 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 babbling. So of course there's plenty probably that we could talk about. Um, is there something because you can ask whatever question. I have no taboos. Like I don't think every subject needs to be spoken about. So is there something I'm thinking of? Well, not really. Like there's just so much I'm working on right now that if you know what, I'll say this. If there's men out there listening to this, knowing that they're meant to do something better, knowing that you feel that society's castrating you for being a strong man, don't believe what people tell you. You know in your gut, you know in your heart, you know in your soul, however you want to call it, that you're way stronger than you think and you know it. Don't let other people bring you down with their ideas because most people that will bring you down have never accomplished anything in life. Only successful people do not waste their time bringing other people down. So if you're a man out there that feels that you're meant for more, there are people that can help. There are mentors out there that can help you. I'm not the only one. There's so many people out there that are great that are going to elevate you, your game, your business, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Stop believing small-minded people. Stop respecting their opinion. Nobody cares. If you have a dream, believe in it, work towards it, and screw what people think. Don't worry about that stuff because it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. At the end of the day, everybody's going to have an opinion, and it really doesn't matter what they think. It's really how you're approaching what you want to accomplish in your life. So I love that. um Nico, how can people find you on the internet if they want to reach out for, any of your services or find out more about what you're doing out there? How can they find you?
They can find me Coach Nico Lagan on Instagram, Facebook, and I started a YouTube channel about a month ago that you can find. It's Nico Lagan. So most of my podcasts are on there. Most of the content that I create, video content, is found on YouTube. But yeah, if you go check my page, be ready to hear stuff that's not politically correct. I'm just a fair warning. I don't really care about what people consider right to say and not right. If it feels right to me, I say it.
Yeah. So that brings us to our final question. As you know, the subtitle of the podcast is Many Little People in Many Little Places, which comes from the opening lyrics of the Michael Franti song, which go, when many little people in many little places do many little things and the whole world changes. So it's one of the little things that Nico's doing on a daily basis to make the world a little bit better place.
I would have to say that it is to be grateful. If there's something I have embraced, I did a podcast with one of my friends a couple of years ago, and he was talking about how every Thursday he would make it a habit to thank somebody in his life. Whatever it was, he was thankful for something, and that gave me the idea. I thought that thankful is not enough. Grateful is more powerful, in my opinion. So for the past 2 years, every week, every Thursday, I did one. I released one today. I will release a video for some that I post all over my social media, where I tell people what I'm grateful for. And it's something, one thing, I'm, I don't come from a religious background. I'm not religious per se, but I've read the Bible. I've read a lot of Buddhist texts. I'm a big fan of Buddhism, but I'm a very spiritual person, and I'm grateful for. I pray every day. I pray every morning, every night, and it's not necessarily in a religious way, more in a way where I'm grateful. I'm just putting it out there that I'm very grateful for everything that's happening in my life, and all the hard work that I'm putting in is finally paying off. Like I'm just very, very, very grateful for everything. And I think that's what changed. It completely changes your perspective when you're grateful. People know it, and I say it to people. Like in the video I released today, I'm grateful to a specific person that's in my marketing team that has been doing phenomenal work, and I just wanted to know that I respected him, that I'm grateful for him, and I'm super happy he's in my life.
Yeah, I love that, and it is so important to just to be grateful. And it's funny, I got a friend as well who does something similar, but he does on a Tuesday and calls it Gratitude Tuesday.
There
And
you go.
yeah, he'll call out. He's a general manager of a baseball team up in Maryland, a minor league team, and he'll call out, a member of his staff on every Tuesday. Gratitude Tuesday. This is who I'm grateful for on our staff, and it totally changes your perspective, and helps you put positive vibes out there in the world. So I love that. I love that concept that because that is an important thing. I think we all need to be, we can get caught up in all the crap that's happening around us, but when you really shift that perspective and you look at all the good things that are happening as well, you really can be grateful every day for everything in your life. So I love that. I love that answer for sure. So
It's the only thing I'd say is be I used to think that praying and being grateful, like praying was a religious thing, but the more I do it, the more I realize it's just about being grateful. It's the same way as, people used to thank God for food before they ate. Instead of thinking about God, just be grateful for the food that's in front of you. Just be grateful for your wife, for your kids. Don't be ashamed to say it. We're so ashamed to tell people that we're grateful because of the way it makes us look. Yet, when's the last time it bothered you when somebody approached you and said, Dan, really grateful you're in my life? Nobody ever in the history of humankind has somebody not been happy to hear that you were grateful. And who knows? Maybe that's the only thing they need that day, and just that comment is gonna change their whole outcome of that day, just because you said something.
Yeah, That's so true. That's so true. I love that. Absolutely love that. Nico, really appreciate you taking the time and having the conversation. Maybe at some point our paths will cross out there on the road in a campground somewhere. We can hang out a little bit. But I really enjoyed this. And for folks out there listening, be sure to check out my other podcasts and blogs at journeymymotherson.com or danclouser.com. While you're there, pick up a copy of my most recent book, Journey of My Mother's Son, Volume 1. Nico, again, really appreciate the time. This is a great conversation.
Thanks for having me.